Okay, here is the Luke McShane game I referenced in the Antidote system. So this had been being played in the European Team Championship. Luke McShane's always been a really good player, but I think he's in big business now, and he occasionally steps into high-level chess. And he did very well at the London Classic in the main section. But before the London Classic, in the European Team Championship against Ivan Sheperinov, 2-6-6-7. Luke McShane's only 2-6-1-5, I'll say only, but he played the system in reverse. So look at the previous video, and this is a reverse. So instead of c4 from white, c5 from black, and look at white's setup. So not committing the knight, because this bishop is going to reroute later. So knight c6, f4, that's always useful for blasting open the diagonal if there's a pawn here, and also this file as well. g6, now knight f3, bishop g7, and I think this is an underestimated system. If we look at it, in reverse as well, it's starting to be emphasized as a very nice attacking system overall, with this seemingly passive bishop move. So maybe that's why this system is underestimated. It's what you do with this bishop later, which is the key thing within your pawn chain. This shuffling maneuver is key. So castles, knight f6, and now the shuffling maneuver begins with a key move which is also useful in its own right, this queen e1. So the queen, as well as going to a great square, means d1 is vacated. Black actually accelerated white's bishop maneuver because he didn't need to move the pawn. This pawn was moved by black taking on d3, as we're about to see. So black castled, queen h4. So the first attacking unit is in place, it's installed. Now we see c4. So black, I think, is underestimating the power of this bishop, and f5 later. King h1, getting the king off the dangerous diagonal, which is one key advantage of playing c4. Black took now, but note the c-pawn's moved, which means this maneuver is being accelerated. Bishop g4. Now the knight can also use up the c3 square instead of a pawn, which is more effective than usual. So the knight's keeping control of the centre a bit, reinforcing e4. Black took on f3, giving up the light squared bishop. So this attack point's not going to be able to be defended. This diagonal is going to be harder to defend on the light squares. Luke took. Now queen b6. So black's strategy is seemingly clear cut, that he's doing this bishop exchange to weaken white's control of d4 and generally a dark square attack. So this is counterbalanced by white's potential light square attack and potential for f5, bishop g5, etc. So bishop d1. Now the move queen a6, trying to go for the pawn, but Luke's combining now attack and defence in a very, very elegant manner by playing rook f3. Seemingly obvious move, but everything's covered by this bishop. So this knight moving, is not really attacking anything useful, or, at the moment it's not really a threat. So the rook is going to switch to h3, potentially. So rook fc8, rook h3. I know it looks rather crude, but it's very, very effective. The ultimate goal of chess is still, to go for the king, and positional play is often just a means to an end. So h5 weakens the king a bit. Now f5. Also, fg would tear open this diagonal if the bishop was on b3. So black's in serious trouble here, I think. In fact, let's just get a Ribka evaluation on this position, just to see. So to sort of get the balance between black's dark square strategy and white's light square strategy. White is apparently only a little bit better, with black's best move being suggested as knight e5, but it's a bit turbulent in the evaluation, so there's a lot of dynamics going on. So much for the engine. In fact, the advantage for white's creeping up now after knight e5, bishop g5, queen b6, bishop b3. So once the bishop hits the b3 square, I think white's advantage, even from an engine perspective, it's increasing. So we'll just turn that off. So in the game, actually, knight e5 was played, so hitting that d3 pawn. But now Luke just ignored that. Positional sacrifice, bishop g5. If knight takes d3, actually, I'm intrigued again what the technical antidote is. The best one, so I'll turn on the engine again. Sorry about this. All right, let's just keep it on. It's a tactical position. Knight takes d3. Oh, simply bishop e2. So if knight f2, queen takes f2, and the bishop's just pinned the knight against the queen. So that's why knight takes d3 is not on. So black actually tried king f8. Now look, just took on g6. So he's weakened a bit the f6 square as well. Bishop goes to that attacking destination. So everything's gone, for the crude attack. Look at all of white's pieces working very well as a team from both sides of the board. This bishop on this side, this bishop on this side. Queen's, in an attacking position. The rook is able to still flexibly switch to f3, protect d3 as needed. So black played knight takes d3, and now Luke simply played his rook to f3. He didn't play rook f1. If rook f1, then knight takes b2 and black's better. Look, c3 is weak. It's liable there, tactical liability. No, he just played this rook to f3, and black actually resigned here. So this is a 20-move win with this system against a 2-6-6-7, which occurred very recently, 24th of October 2009. So why is it a disaster for black? Well, let's see. Knight takes b2 as an example. Bishop takes, as rook takes. Everything's crashing through now. So say king here. Now bishop e6, and there's a threat of queen f7 and mating. So let's say queen c6. But there's also the f file now that can be used. Rook f1, so threatening mate. So knight d3, queen f8, mate, for example. Let's look at other defences. Well, the king can't go to g8. So again, with this bishop e6, Rybka's actually giving this move, which seems to be giving away the queen. So I think the idea is to technically, after rook f1, play queen takes f1. So that's the only idea, but you can actually just take the queen here. So it's a bit desperate. There's no back row mate. Rook c1, just staving off the mate for a bit longer. So let's have a quick look, anyway, how this disaster occurred again. Is this an underestimated system against the Sicilian Defence? Because this bishop doesn't look too aggressive. The whole thing doesn't look aggressive. But it's the rerouting on this diagonal, which means this system might have a lot of venom. And it's been proven, that if Shepanov can lose, in 20 moves, it must be good at least for club chess or 5-minute chess, this system. And I would have liked to have used it against Hennigan in reverse. It seems such an attractive game, the Simon Williams game. So it's as though white's weak on the dark squares. That's the concession, that the imbalances are interesting to assess here. In fact, Rybka in this position is liking black. But maybe that's a bit optimistic, because the black king, is a clear target here for white's, pieces. So queen a6 apparently wasn't the best, going for this d3. Maybe rook ac8, and now just going on to the dark squares. So queen b4. If white has to give up the dark squared bishop, then there's less attacking energy here. So maybe this isn't so hot here. And in fact, black might be even equal or slightly better. But that didn't happen in the game. Black was tempted by going for this pawn chain weakness, this d3, which was a disaster. So queen a6, because white's able to optimally defend and attack at the same time. And knight d3 is not even on because of bishop e2. And once the bishop comes to b3, f6 is also a major issue now after this rook f3 move. So not playing rook f1, this is more accurate, not to leave any tactical liability to knight takes b2. And now just crashing through with bishop f6. I think actually it was after rook f3 that black had had enough. He'd resigned. So a very convincing system by the looks of this game and the previous game. Please leave any comments or questions on YouTube. Thanks very much.